Madden holiday is here and we will play all night. Calling sick and sound sincere, in tackles will delight. The fridge is packed with drink and meat, the taste of victory sure is sweet.
So when we left off last time, Gold Gal Sparrowcat Jr. had just led the Chicago Bears to a blowout victory over the Los Angeles Rams. You would think that would mean that I was now the starting quarterback. You would be wrong. Instead, I had to wait till week 13 against the Lions to start again. So yeah, I had to wait while they simulated through the season one more time before getting another chance to play. Again, I don't know how I'm supposed to necessarily be a face of the franchise at this point, but okay, I guess I'll just roll with the punches on this one. Added to that, I'm still getting flack for getting Allen Robinson II traded. Coincidentally, as I'm recording this, the real Allen Robinson has reportedly been asking for a trade. So I guess Madden is now prophetic. Okay, so moving into the game here, when my character takes the field, you will notice some different stats have seemingly popped up. I guess that means he actually has played at some point, but for some reason, I didn't actually get to play it in the game. This is really turning into a big complaint thread, isn't it? Look, I'll try to be as positive as I can throughout all this, but hopefully not too much more. I'm just tired of all the negative Madden bashing on the internet right now. I should point out that this game was played last week, but due to a lot of scheduling concerns with me, I wasn't able to get the thing recorded and uploaded in time. So these Sunday games have obviously already been played, and yes, Mitch Trubisky did lead the Bears on an incredible comeback to beat the Lions. I don't know what any of that really means. I mean, it could just be more that the Lions choked again, but not to mention a lot of people are complimenting Trubisky for the way he played. Well, at least for the way he played in one quarter of the game. In other news, the Tennessee Titans kicker has decided to become the living embodiment of an Adam Sandler song. I'd like to play a portion of that song, but I don't want to get copyright claimed, so sorry. Alright then, so we're going to be seeing a play right here where let's run and play again. I know I score on a little run pass option play. I hit the wide receiver, I guess, on a slant, and it's carried into the end zone. I think it's just about at this point right here. Yeah, I'm picking Y, the top play right there. So, yep, you're about to see the run pass option where you either don't hit a button to handle the running back or you hit this button quickly to hit the wide receiver in stride. And hopefully he does this. I need to be careful. I'm slowly turning into Dennis Quaid's character from Everybody's All-American. You know, the time at the end when he's narrating his whole biography and basically giving every little idiosyncratic point of every game he ever played in. You have seen Everybody's All-American, right? Or am I the only one who's done that? So, unlike last time where everything cut nicely in between quarters, because I recorded all the sort of middle material, the cutscenes and stuff like that, this has made these record times a little wonky, and so these videos are ending at weird subject points. So, instead, like I said, the last one I pretty much cut nicely every, give or take every quarter. Might be a little bit more, might be a little less. That includes the halftime, even though I didn't really record that, or I probably shouldn't have recorded it. I can't remember anymore. Anyway, so yeah, we're on to the second possession here. I'll try to be less narrating. Try to think of something else. Yeah, I intercepted the ball and now I'm running it. So, yeah. I guess maybe I should really start scripting these things again so that maybe they're a little tighter. I don't know. It's a little harder. It's going to take more time to get that done. Then again, the view counts on these haven't exactly been really high, but I hope sometimes some of these ones hit. Maybe if I tell more stories along the way. So let's start off with kind of a unique relationship I have with the Chicago Bears. Now, I've kind of made it no secret that I've lived most of my life in Bismarck, North Dakota. Bismarck is kind of unique in the sense that it's sort of an NFL border town. North Dakota is split into two halves when it comes to most football teams. The eastern part of the state, which is where Fargo, Grand Forks, and those ranks are, those are definitely more Minnesota Vikings. That's the closest team. I mean, there's a few other ones, like Kansas City has cropped up a little bit there. Green Bay has cropped up a little bit because, well, the Packers and so forth. While western North Dakota is definitely more in Broncos country. A lot of the television stations out there used to just come from Denver, basically, if you lived in western North Dakota, which is obviously the oil region or down in the Theodore Roosevelt National Park area. So yeah, like a lot of those, you just got the TV stations from Denver instead of any North Dakota ones up until the mid to late 90s. Of course, none of that really involves the Chicago Bears too much, so why am I talking about them? Well, my parents are actually from Illinois, two separate small towns in Illinois. Basically, they grew up Chicago Bears fans in the mid to late 1960s, which is, of course, when the Bears were not very good outside of having Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus. Still, again, they were mostly Bears fans, and I started to come of age, especially in football, in the mid '80s, which is, of course, when the Bears were the Bears, the Mike Ditka Bears with Walter Payton and Jim McMahon, and the defense and all of that. So, yeah, the Bears did play a major part in my household, especially since Super Bowl 20 was the first Super Bowl I ever watched. Okay, quick little side note as we're coming up here. This is where that recording wonkiness really comes into play, as I inadvertently wind up skipping a touchdown I scored. It's not too much of a deal. This game turns out to be a total blowout along the way. So, yeah, I'll talk more about the game itself and the ramifications when we get to the end. Okay, so back to the story. Basically, like, my father, the longer he lived in North Dakota, became more of a Vikings fan who occasionally would root for the Bears, while my mother was a Bears fan who would occasionally root for the Vikings. Anyway, the 90s happened along that way, and the Bears suddenly kind of took a downturn. One of the more notable stories I had is from a friend who was at the Minnesota Vikings Bears game in 1992. The Vikings were hosting the Bears, and the Metrodome was, of course, a very rowdy and loud stadium. And Mike Dick had expressly instructed his quarterback, Jim Harbaugh, not to call any audibles because he was afraid that wide receivers wouldn't hear him. And the Bears were a pretty sizable advantage. I think it was like 17-0. Maybe it was 17-3, something along that way. And, well, Harbaugh called a play, and he had Neil Anderson, who was running back normally, but this case was split out as a wide receiver. And suddenly, Harbaugh audibled, even though he wasn't supposed to. He thought, well, we're up so much, the crowd noise wasn't going to be a factor. And, well, it turned out to be a bit of a factor, as Vikings safety Todd Scott intercepted the pass and proceeded to run it back all the way for a touchdown. This led to one of Mike Ditka's most epic meltdowns, and like I said, my friend was there in the stadium, and he said, yeah, you could hear the swearing up in the stands, even though that stadium was still pretty loud, so it was a rather humorous moment. Anyway, the Vikings came back to win that game, and, well, that kind of precipitated the downfall of Mike Ditka's career as the Chicago Bears head coach. I mean, they came into the game with, I want to say, like a 4-1 record or something like that. They had a pretty good record, and they were still kind of expecting to do some things, and, well, they proceeded to lose all but like 2 games the rest of the season, and yeah, they were pretty bad. I think they finished 5-11. I can't remember, but yeah, that was a really unceremonious end to the Ditka regime there. So yeah, also I believe that was it maybe Mike Singletary's last game as a, well, not his last game, but his last season. Was it, or is that the next year? Because, yeah, it was either that year, yeah, it was 92 or 93 that was Singletary's last year, and that, really did kind of start to end that whole mini dynasty of the Bears, and ever since then, they have wandered between mediocre to terrible to kind of above average. I mean, obviously, they made another Super Bowl appearance, but, yeah, they've never really been as consistent as they were in the 80s. As for the Vikings, well, they've been a bit more relevant than the Bears have the last few years. Anyway, I'll save the Vikings stories for a later episode. Anyway, returning to the game here for just a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty much well ahead here. I'm just kind of trying to milk the clock. I'd already pretty much hit my game day goal for this, which was 3 touchdown passes. So yeah, definitely trying to run some more time-consuming drives and just make this end quickly as I can. I know I could have just auto-simmed or something, but it just didn't feel right to me. Also, apologies if the audio suddenly spiked up really there. I must have bumped something forward in the equalizer. Hopefully this will sound a lot better from here on out. Okay, so I think right after this touchdown here, I'll probably just jump to the end of the game because I'm really running out of stuff to talk about. Just again, when you don't have a script, you have to try to remember interesting things that pop into your head, or just little anecdotes, or again, if you want to talk more about the game, I will talk about the game and what happens after that when we reach the end. After this touchdown, I'll jump to the end and I'll elaborate on what happened after that. Okay, so I skipped ahead a little bit here, and I know I score not quite on this play, but I believe the play after that. Let me just check. It's like a pass to, I believe, Jimmy Graham here. Okay, yeah, I think it's this play. Yeah, I score on this play right here. So, yeah, we'll just skip to the end of the game at this point. Okay, so now you would think I would be named the starter or something else would happen. Well, no, as we see, I think this is Daniel Jeremiah. I may be wrong on that. Anyway, no, I am not named the starter. Instead, they just simulate the rest of the season. I don't even know if the Bears win the Super Bowl or not because they don't seem to bring it up. However, I do wind up getting named the starter going into next season. And I'm put in charge of, quote, a dream team. Whatever that means, I don't know what it is. I guess that means they signed a bunch of big free agents and they're expecting me to do more. As the starting quarterback, maybe. Again, I'm named the starting quarterback. I don't know what happened to Mitch Trubisky. Was he a free agent who signed somewhere else? Or did they just do something different? Anyway, we'll cover more of the Dream Team next time.